One team I think everybody's in agreement have next to no chance is the Rajasthan Royals. It's similar to CSK. Finished eighth last year in the end. Coached by, well, I put a question mark because that's still up in the air. Kumar Sangakkara is involved in some capacity. I think everyone knows Rajasthan's problems. They're heavily reliant upon their overseas players due to the lack of domestic stars within their side. They've got good, strong top order batting, but the bowling is, well, pick a word and it's probably the right one. Well, them losing Archer is huge. I know they've gained Morris, but they've basically done a straight swap and they've come out with a worse bowler in effect.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to say. Last year they had good hitting numbers, around 17% boundaries scored, but they conceded around 18%. So having that batting bias, because 17% hitting is decent, with a net boundary percentage is extremely difficult to qualify with those metrics and biases. They also had the second lowest batting stability in the comp last year, around 18 balls per dismissal, and the worst power play balls per dismissal, about 17. So they're constantly getting 2 or 3 down in the power play pretty frequently, and that's very, very difficult to come back from that a lot of the time. Their bowling was poor, expensive via pace and spin relative to other teams. They had the worst economy in the power play and 30 balls per wicket in the power play, and the worst death economy in the comp. So and that's with Archer in the team. So if you take Archer out of that team, and that's a big problem. Now, obviously, they brought Morris in to kind of go with Archer, and it all looked good until he dropped his fish tank in the bath. And they actually had 14 crore left in their budget, so they could have got Joe Richardson as well. That would have been fun. I think if they had Archer, I actually think they could have done all right. They're having a better auction than a lot of the other teams, but Archer has taken the best bowler by a mile out of the worst bowling group is just huge. The other hope for them is that Tyagi will kick on and realise a bit more potential. Morris is a good death bowler and a useful lower order hitter, although I actually think Archer's probably a better hitter than him these days. AJ Ty is getting older, but had a decent enough big bash. Couple of spin options in Tawatia, Gopal. Gopal had a bad year last year in UAE, but retains good numbers in India and also at lower levels in Indian cricket as well, so Mr. Khali Trophy in particular. So I think that hopefully for them, Gopal will get back to his best, which we saw in 2018 and 2019 in the IPL. Tawati is an excellent, say, number 8 or 7. There's a spinner who bats and hits big. So they've got potential to maybe back down to 8 without considering Gopal or Ty, who can maybe. Gopal's more of he can bat, but he's not aggressive. Ty is a bit of a swing and hit kind of batter. They could have a bit more depth this year, which is something that I'd like, because with that lack of stability that they had last year, having that extra depth is often a necessity. The other main question is they've spent a lot of money on overseas players compared to a lot of other teams, and we said that earlier. That's not often the best route to go down. Who do you play? I think that you probably go Buttler, Stokes, Morris, and one other, whoever that is. It's a shame because I think Livingston adds a lot, but whether he'll get picked is another matter entirely. And obviously Archer will come in and be that other one when he's fit too. So we could potentially have guys like Mustafiz Miller, who probably may not even play that much. Because they've spent so much money on high-profile overseas players, that's a bit of an issue. Samson and to a lesser extent Swatia, Gopal are good locals, but it's maybe a bit of a drop-off in quality after that for the local players, and I think that could be a bit of an issue for them too. I think that if they had Archer, I actually think maybe 4th or 5th would be quite attainable. But without Archer, I think that it's going to be a real struggle for them, and they could be the basement dwellers.
Where most English fans are probably looking at this side is with Josh Buttler and Ben Stokes in mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously been a lot of talk of Ben Stokes going up the order over the last month or so.
Yeah.
Is that something that you would support, that the numbers would support?
Mm-hmm.
Is a better role for Ben Stokes than being at 4-5?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. So his hitting numbers aren't top level, and his power play batting numbers are decent enough. So I would look to bat him towards the top, if not at the top. And in an ideal world with this RR team, I would look to maybe open him and Buttler together. I don't think it's a question of either or in that respect. But then you've got to somehow probably look to shoehorn Jaiswal in as well. So you could go top 3 of Jaiswal, Buttler, Stokes, and I think that would be fine. They often lose early wickets, so Stokes coming in at 3 would kind of be almost a de facto opener as well. Sampson at 4. So that's how I would go. Whether they choose a similar option is another matter entirely.
Yeah, the potential is there, but that Archer, the underlying Archer factor, is just the killer, isn't it? To any hopes that they would have really had, because I think a lot of people are quite positive about Rajasthan after their auction. They bought pretty well with domestic talents. Shivam Dubé was a decent addition into a questionable middle order that they've been having the last season. But yeah, just losing the best bowler in the competition is going to hurt anyone. And like you said, it's going to hurt a bowling attack that has nothing else to it. Even more, it's going to be considerable damage to Rajasthan. So without Archer, 4 or 5 games they're touting it for maybe to start with, because he's not been fully ruled out. But even after those games, they're going to be playing massive catch-up. It's hard to envisage they'll pick up many, if any, points in those first couple.
Yeah, I think if they win 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 5 without him, they could consider that a massive result, and it would definitely keep them in the hunt. If he comes in, plays last 9 or 10 games, I think that and they've only won 2 before then. That's huge for them. But they could conceivably go like one win, 3 losses, or 1 win, 4 losses in the first 4 or 5 games without him, and then it's really hard to play catch up from there. And you probably you need either 7 wins with a positive net run rate or 8 wins to qualify.